Travis Wayne Goodsell. I guess it's my porn videos that I've done the last several days that has caught the attention of new subscribers. We'll see how long they last until they get offended. But I see that there are some of them who are female. Welcome. I also had a comment by a person Mormon who just doesn't get it. I keep getting these videos for my segment that I took out of the bigger video in regards to I can't remember the main video title. Had to do with Latter Days, obviously, because this second segment that I pulled out is LDS Church President reveals day and hour of Second Coming of Mormon Christ. And I've had several comments of stupidity by Mormons who look at the title and instantly are triggered to make a hate comment and leave and not listen to the original video, let alone the whole video that I gave. And so they think they know better than me and they don't have to listen to what I have to say to explain it. It's just, oh my God, what part of hearken do Mormons not comprehend and appreciate? There's a reason why Joseph Smith repeated numerous times and is in the Book of Mormon numerous times, warning Mormons, hearken, 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 hearken. And Mormons aren't hearkening. And so, Nelson, I know you're 70 or watching my channel. They're my biggest viewers and viewers of my videos. They watch the longest amount of time. They need to inform you that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been successful at keeping Mormons so dumb that they're no longer obeying you. Good job, Nelson. You've thought you could control Mormons, and you failed. Because Sam G, I'm sure it has nothing to do with The Hobbit, made a hate comment out of ignorance and says to that video, the title is misleading. Nelson tried so hard. he just fails. It's not the title that was misleading, it's the picture. And I did that on purpose. See, because the title is not misleading. Anybody remember my video? The Church of Jesus Christ is not the LDS Church? It's among the more popular at the moment. And so listen carefully to the title. LDS Church President reveals. day and hour of second coming of Mormon Christ. Now, do you remember Nelson? Nicknames are a major victory for Lucifer. Jesus is angry. And so, yes, in this title, I am not referring to the Church of Jesus Christ. And so it is not misleading because of what we're going over today, the 1838 Joseph Smith history in the learning of the Jews. And I already have covered it, sort of. I did the Methodist preacher video the other day. And so, yeah, Sam G is just stupid. He goes, nobody knows the time or the hour of Jesus' return. Only the Father knows. See, he knows how to quote, sort of. And obviously he did not watch any of my videos where I go over and explain, no, solar eclipses are the day and the hour of an event. And thus in the latter days the sun shall be darkened. That alone tells us somebody knows a day and the hour. Especially Matthew, as he is one of those who says, sun shall be darkened. In Matthew 24 even, where he says, the sun shall be darkened, but no man knows the day or the hour. But also, John, the Revelator, he gives us the day and the hour. In Revelation 12, there are several days and hour events that are there. And Revelation 19, 12 and 19, guys, those are days and hours that he reveals. And so obviously, whoever put in no man knows the day or the hour was maliciously trying to deceive you, as it is not from the original author who put in the day and the hour. This is not complicated. But apparently, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has successfully made Mormons dumb and disobedient. Oh my God. And so, as tomorrow is the 4th of July, I'm doing this video in almost perfect timing, doing it the day before instead of tomorrow, because I'm inspired to do it yesterday. So I might as well get to it today. A few years back, or maybe 2 or 3 years back, COVID has sort of thrown off my time framing. But a woman wrote a book about Lucy Mack. And her main conclusion is that Lucy Mack was the glue of the family to hold it together. She made some very false accusations against Joseph Smith Sr., summarizing that he was a drunken bum that couldn't hold a job and was irreligious, not religious. And even Mormons who leave the church carry the baggage of stupidity with them. The Book of Mormon. Critics, I am the one who have helped you with the information that Joseph Smith Sr. rewrote the 116 pages for Joseph Jr. after Martin Harris stole them. Me. That's my contribution. And what thanks do you give me? You see, you already are aware, whether you believe it or not, that Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon. And so for Joseph Smith Jr., or Sr., sorry, I keep making those little slight errors. I hope you catch them in my videos. To be a part of the Book of Mormon, which is the keystone of our religion, you need to factor that in as a fact. So this woman who thinks she's supporting Lucy Mack as some kind of a victim of the patriarchal abuse, which is her agenda, she's wrong. She's making a false accusation. And so now the beam in the moat is now activated. She has falsely accused Joseph Smith Sr. of being a bad patriarch. And thus, her beam is that she is a feminazi. Dear God. Everybody believes the Bible, and yet not a single person understands it. So yes, Joseph Smith Sr. was a Congregationalist in Vermont. Because of the distance away from the Congregationalist church, they weren't able to attend all the time, but the Cowdreys were. They were right next door. And so when Nathaniel Wood came into town, into town next door technically, and started his new Israelite religion, there is a very blatant, obvious indicator that Joseph Smith Sr., at least, was actively involved with the Jewish mysticism, Jewish Kabbalah, of the religion. He did not become a member because membership requires polygamy. And there is no indication whatsoever, in fact there's contrary evidence, as he put in the 116 pages, "Thou shalt not commit polygamy." That's his contribution in Jacob. And so, yes, he did know about divining, which was Justice Winchell, who joined for the purpose of being a polygamist. But he was able to teach divining, as well as forging of metals, so that you can replicate things to replace. And that's where people get confused into thinking he was a forger. No. Wrong definition. And this is also the religion that Joseph Smith Sr. got the holiness to the Lord parchment. It's Jewish Kabbalah. It is not witchcraft. Because they were involved in the signs in the heavens from Revelation. And so, yes, Joseph Smith Sr. helped with the Joseph Smith translation, especially where he moves verse 5 to verse 3 in Revelation chapter 12, and adds, sign in heaven in the likeness of things on the earth. That's Jewish Kabbalah. That was his contribution. And so when you read the Book of Mormon, oh, there's Revelation chapter 12 right there in the beginning of the book, 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 8 is where Lehi starts his second vision, which is tied to Joseph Smith History's second vision. Joseph Smith reveals to us that he, too, has been taught in the learning of his father, which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. And so the Egyptian gold plates, which Nelson called golden, they're gold because of the Knights Templar. Joseph Smith Sr. was a master mason since May 6th or 7th or 8th, somewhere around there, in 1818, at the Lodge of Canandaigua. It was an Ontario lodge. And that's York rites. It's a big difference from Scottish rites, because Scottish rites have the degrees. See, the first 3 levels, they're combined for both. But before 1826, and I get still comments from people who don't know that there was a difference before 1826. They go off of what currently is being practiced, and it's a lot looser of rules and guidelines now because they need membership. And so they're allowing pretty much anybody in, even females. There are female lodges now to try to boost the membership of the lodges. But before 1826, it was extremely strict. There were rules and guidelines that people needed to follow. And so when you read over Heber C. Kimball's Masonry account from Wikipedia, you realize what he's doing. He's the enemy of the church, as we're going to get into here. And so, knowing of the real history of Joseph Smith Sr., that he was religious, that he was Congregationalist in origin, but became a new Israelite with Jewish mysticism, Jewish Kabbalah, which is not witchcraft. He realized that he was teaching his little boy about divining, because it's a kid's game. He never made any money off of it. And so all the reports of the neighbors seeing him and his kids going around using a rock and a hat or divining rods, that was family home evening. It was Joseph Smith Sr. being a good dad. But no, people want to be mean and abusive and lie and make false accusations to reveal themselves. And so, when you make the connection, which I did, that William Morgan was there at the Canandaigua Lodge, working on a book to expose the plot to destroy America by the Illuminati. And then disappears on 9/11, 1826. I don't understand why nobody is picking up on this. Because when you look at William Morgan's page on Wikipedia, you get to the part of possible connection to Mormonism. And they only have his wife joining the church and William Morgan being a part of the first baptisms for the dead. He wasn't dead. He was in Honduras with his other family. But that's information that I provided for you on that. But Joseph Smith Sr., as the Master Mason of the Lodge, was duty-bound to help his brother in need. It was him, Sr., who rescued William Morgan. And guess what else? He took on the responsibility of finishing and publishing the book. This is why he, and he alone, was able to rewrite the 116 pages. Not just because he was a new Israelite of Jewish Kabbalah, not just because he was a Yorkite Master Mason that had the lore of the Knights Templar, Egyptian gold plates, Holy Grail of the bloodline of the Christ, who would be human, but purchasing America for the latter-day Zion, burying the Egyptian gold plates in the caves of southern Illinois, where X would mark the spot for the day and the hour of his coming. This is how the church, well, why the church wants to make you stupid, so that you will not know this information. Joseph Smith Sr. is the unknown American hero of 1826. And this woman writes a book saying he's a drunken bum who can't hold a job and is irreligious. This 4th of July belongs to Joseph Smith Sr. We owe him for saving America. But that's why they joined the church, to murder Joseph Smith Jr. Because they knew what the Book of Mormon was. And that's why they call it Christian with Jesus, another testament. And so they also merged the Joseph Smith history of 1838 with the actual history of the church. It's part of Volume 1, Chapters 1 through 5. It's not supposed to be. This is supposed to be a completely separate book. This is Joseph Smith Jr.'s visions. And he's using Jewish Kabbalah and Yorkite Knights Templar knowledge. So, he starts off saying that there are evil disposed and designing persons. Yeah, they found them. Heber C. Kimball joined in 1832 with Brigham Young. That was their whole intention, was to infiltrate, bring in their buddies who want revenge. They called themselves the Danites. They rose up in number, they rose up in popularity, they rose up in rank. Then they removed the leader. Well, first the leadership, then the leader, and took it over, utterly destroying it and rising up with a new world order religion. Christianity with Jesus. Exactly what Roman Emperor Constantine did to the Jews. And so, it is not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Church has been brazen enough to reveal in the Joseph Smith Papers the original handwritten document, not just the publication in the Times and Seasons. It was the Church of Latter-day Saints. Section 115 claims to be written before this 1838 history. In 115, Nelson gets up and justifies the name of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That wasn't the name of the church. Section 115 is a forged document. Not a forged metal, a forged document. And so he recognizes that these evil-disposed and designing persons are trying to militate against its character as a church and its progress in the world. It's because they're anti-Semitic. When you replace the Jews, you're anti-Semitic. These Danites of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are anti-Semitic. Doesn't matter if they're friends with a Jew. That's just more reason why they're anti-Semitic. When they shake hands with a Jew and say they're the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that's beyond hypocrisy. That's just pure evil. It's like a member of the KKK shaking hands with a black man. They're still racist. And so he's writing this vision to disabuse the public mind and to put the truth in possession of the facts, which is awesome because it's a visionary account. It's not literal history. That's why he doesn't talk about the rocks in a hat, other than the Urim and Thummim that he finds. But he doesn't talk about getting arrested for glass looking as a child. Because remember, back in those days, the age of an adult was 21. In 1826 of March, yeah, he was still a child in the eyes of the law. But they had no problem sending kids to court. There was no juvie court back then. But it was just a misdemeanor offense. Okay. And so when you see that Willard Richards from the Joseph Smith Papers is the one who put in Jesus, and that Willard Richards was a part of Brigham Young's 12, in other words, a Danite of Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball, you realize who Joseph Smith is talking about. He's talking about the 12 and the 70 Danites who were going around supposed to talk about the Book of Mormon as the learning of the Jews. But instead, they were going around telling people it's another testament of Jesus Christ and ignoring 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2 and going right to 3 Nephi chapter 11, as missionaries still do to this very day. And it's a denial of science. They've misinterpreted Moroni chapter 10 verses 3 through 5. Mormons think, oh, we deny science. Okay, spiritual witness, got it. No. And you ignore Oliver Cowdery's contribution in Alma chapter 32 starting in verse 28. The scientific process of faith. Not the anti-science of faith. There's a big difference. And when you take out manifest, you screw things up or change its definition. And so he talks about when he was born, talks about the state of Vermont, and that helps us get an idea of doing research to find out what religion Joseph Smith Sr. was there. Congregationalist, and then became a new Israelite until the wood scrape. And interesting, he knows the name of the Christ in the future. I might have to stop the video. He knows it's Immanuel. That's the surname. He knows about the day and the hour, thus the crossroads of the sun god. Well, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. Moving on. See, women? This is why I have Kleenex, just in case I'm watching a chick flick. Ran out of ice cream, though. Because this first vision is also a prophecy that the Christ would live in that area by the Great Lakes. I did that video, I'm not sure how long ago. It's been months at least, if not years. But Ezekiel 17, one of them is about Sodom, the other is a parable of the branch, which Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and I think there's others, that talk about the branch, which is from the Egyptian stories about Horus being the branch, the son of Osiris. Wasn't expecting that one. Well, at least it was 30 minutes in, so nobody's watching. When I did research on the family, you can see in the names of the kids of his involvement with Jewish Kabbalah and Knights Templar or Yorkites. Alvin indicates prior to, because that's an elf in England, something like that. Whereas Hiram Abiff, it's not spelled this way. The court documents showed his legal birth spelling as Hiram. And then you have Samuel. That's a Hebrew word, the name of God. And William, the Conqueror. But Don Carlos, which William and Don Carlos are not connected, but then you have Sophronia. Yeah. And then Catherine, well, that's tied to William. With the Knights Templar, King Arthur, Catherine, and William are those kind of names in the kings of Europe and the queens of Europe. And then Lucy, Lucifer. He worships Satan. That's the name of his mother, the name of their mother, her mother. That's why she was named such. And so you blame Lucy's parents for naming her Lucy Mack. And so they talk about moving to Manchester in 1818 when he becomes the Master Mason. See, it's not only his responsibility to care for the lodge members, it's also the duty of the lodge members to care for him. And so for him to move into the farm in Manchester, which is closer to the lodge, because they have to take horses back then, you see the way that Freemasons took care of each other back then. See, in Vermont, he wasn't taken care of. He got kicked out for poverty because of the laws of Vermont wanted a pure master rich race. And so anybody who was poor had to be kicked out of the state. And so Joseph is now talking about a religious fervor that didn't happen in 1820. And it has to do with the Methodists. He says it starts with the Methodists. Brigham Young was Methodist. Emma Hale was Methodist. And so the two are being involved here. But he doesn't mention getting involved with Emma until he's working with Josiah Stowell. And interestingly, the places for silver in Pennsylvania are closer to Harmony north of Pittsburgh. There's nothing over by Harmony, which was not called Harmony anymore, Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania. That's also what you need to check on. And so when Joseph is arrested as a glass looker because of not finding any silver for Josiah Stowell, they go all the way to, was it Bainbridge Courthouse, which was where Joseph and Emma got married. Hey, remember me, Judge? I'm the glass looker. Here's my wife. We're eloping. He knew the court. Very interesting. But the Presbyterian, that was the preacher when Alvin died, who said Alvin's going to hell. And Lucy Mack was a member? What? No. Because Lucy, in her autobiography, writes nothing about being a Presbyterian. She just talks about, I refer to my son's account. Which is this. I have learned for myself that Presbyterianism is not true. She already knew that when he said that Alvin's going to hell. And then the Baptist, that's Sidney Rigdon, the major author of the Book of Mormon. But he left the Campbellites because of the dispute over how to rewrite the Bible. Alexander Campbell only wanted to rewrite the New Testament. Sidney Rigdon wanted to do both Old and New Testaments, to harmonize them. Old Testament prophesies about New Testament stuff. And because Alexander Campbell said, no, we're doing it my way or the highway, Sidney Rigdon left, took his ball and went home to Ohio. He moved around several places, but yeah, that's where he had his own congregation in Ohio. And then there was some time in Pittsburgh, and yeah, he lived next door to Harmony, Pennsylvania, or in the near vicinity. And it's hard to find that information now, because as I reveal in my videos the real church history, the church tries to cover it up and hide things so that others won't be able to find that information like I did. They don't want you to know the truth about this document. I already told you that Joseph Smith Sr. is the unknown American hero that we owe for the 4th of July. And so Brigham Young, being Methodist and being involved in calling the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you see what he's setting up here for the first vision. And so he talks about how Christians of all these broken sects, which is the fulfillment of the prophecy or the dream of Nebuchadnezzar that Daniel interprets. Christianity of Constantine is the iron mingled with clay that shatters. And Christians haven't caught on to that, but they love to talk about Daniel. They claim Jesus is the rock that destroys the image. No, guys. No. You're the clay feet mingled with iron. That's Constantine, the creation of Christianity. And so nobody's listening this far in. Wow. And so he notices that despite all claiming to be Christian, their interpretation of the Bible contradicts the other interpretations of the Bible. And you see how Joseph Smith set this up? He's telling Mormons, you're screwing up the church by calling it Christian, using Christian interpretation. Do you understand this? Am I talking to Mormon crickets? Yeah, we're doing that. Nobody would understand it though if I'm not talking about, I don't know. It's obviously going to be a very long video. We'll see. And so, yeah, because of the differences of interpretation, there's fighting involved. You know, the war of words and tumult. And so if you are familiar with the premortal existence war in heaven of Mormonism, which comes from Revelation 12, that's what we're talking about here. This is the war in heaven of Joseph Smith. That's what that means. It has nothing to do with the literal history of it. He's talking about using incorrect interpretations to try to get people to follow them, to take away their agency, to subject them into bondage, and thus the need to understand the correct interpretation of Scripture, so that you can see that we do know the day and the hour. And so he says that he didn't intend to find out which church was, if all churches were false, and then is told that all churches were false. He says he wanted to know, or something like that, which is kind of funny. He should have checked that again. But then he goes to the Epistle of James, 1st chapter, 5th verse, and it's about interpretation of prayer. See, the prayer is not him kneeling, folding his arms, bowing his head, closing his eyes, and speaking vocally to God. you've missed the whole point. The first vision is a vision. That's prayer. You've missed the whole point. You receive knowledge from God. That's what prayer is. And with that revelation that Joseph Jr. got, he then formed the church, published the Book of Mormon for his dad, because there are people trying to murder whoever publishes this book. And Jr. got murdered for the book. And so it's as much as Joseph Smith Jr. for this 4th of July as Senior, because in order for the work to go forth, great and a marvelous wonder, great and a marvelous work shall, whatever DNC 4 says, for missionaries. Ask of God. And so, yeah, he's not literally in the grove of trees, but the church wants you to believe so. They don't want you to understand the concept of revelation. When he gets to Joel, that talks about dreams and visions in the latter days. And so then he talks about the thick darkness, and apparently there's a fuller account of Lucifer, which you can tie this with the selections from the Book of Moses, where Moses confronts Lucifer. Comparable, and for a specific reason, because Moses is not a real historical character either. Not only is the Book of Mormon in the learning of the Jews because it's not literal history, just like this is in the learning of the Jews, not literal history, so too is the Bible, the whole Bible, in the learning of the Jews, not literal history, which means they're all prophecies of the latter days. And as a prophecy of the latter days, Moses is the man like Moses, the Jewish Christ, Joseph Smith's Christ, which he's going to talk about here. And so the selections from the Book of Moses, that's Joseph Smith giving you additional revelation of prophecy of your Christ, as he knows the name. And so, yes, the leader of the great and abominable church is Lucifer, from the Illuminati group, with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. It's a battle between the two groups, trying to save America, trying to save Mormons. Powers, enemy, despair, to destruction. See, that's what's going to happen to Mormons. He tells us this. This is Acts. Destruction. It's technically utterly destroyed, but that's why he's using the word destruction here. And so here's Amen, makes his appearance. I saw a pillar of light exactly over my head above the brightness of the sun. The sun at noonday. That's Amen, the Egyptian sun god at noonday. He is Immanuel. That is your name of the last name of your Christ. sun god, Immanuel. And here he comes to Joseph Smith in a vision, not a literal history. And so, Father Amen and Son Amen. There's multiple interpretations for this. This is the Holy Grail that he's revealing here. The bloodline, the Holy Grail. And so, the Son Amen is the Holy Grail Messiah of the latter days. But, who's Father Amen? Joseph Smith Sr. Because he's the Master Mason with the York rites. He's the keeper of the Grail. And he, because of 9/11/1826, was activated to be the bloodline. It was now going to be through him because of the enemy. That's also another picture I should put in. I was thinking about that earlier this morning. The hero. Okay. Hope I can find them in that. And so Junior, we know now from facts of history, became the bloodline Christ to found the church in preparation for the coming of the bloodline of the latter days. John the Baptist is a cousin to Jesus. That's a prophecy. The descendant of, or the child of Joseph would be a cousin to the child of Hiram. See what's going on here? Joseph Smith is John the Baptist, preparing the way for the Messiah of Mormons, who would therefore be through Hiram, who was murdered by his brother, whose descendant son would return to take back the throne from his murderous uncle. The real church history is a direct fulfillment of the Egyptian prophecies. They know the name of him. They know he's going to be born through Hiram. That's why the Freemasonry have the Hiram Abiff murder, as they try to find out who murdered him, and also talk about his successor, who would be the Christ. That's why the York Rite symbol is the cross. They use poles in Rome. That has nothing to do with that. They know it's a cross because they know the day and the hour of his coming. And a crown empty, just hanging on the cross. because the throne is missing its capstone. The Egyptian has so much symbolism and meaning. It's just unfathomable how many publications are needed to cover just one picture. So yes, they knew. That was the indication of where on earth Zion would be. And yes, the Confederates also knew. They came from the Scottish Rites Illuminati. And thus the KKK knew. That's why they burned crosses. That's the symbolism. They know the day and the hour because they are the ones who are plotting to overthrow America. Whereas the Knights Templar wanted to save America and restore the true Christ and Zion. That's why the symbolisms are similar, but the interpretations are different. That's why the swastika was inverted, so that it is not the Buddhist symbol or the Iranian symbol, Hindu symbol. Which one was it? It's either Hindu or Buddhism that it originated from, which is similar to the yin-yang symbol of the snakes, or the snake also symbol, eating the tail, but yin-yang. Anyway, and so they call him by name. Joseph calls the Latter-day Christ by name. Wow. And knows that he would live in the Great Lakes area. Anybody who diminishes Joseph Smith, which is everyone, because you are not fully grasping the value of this document. And nobody's even watching anymore. Not even the woman who likes watching long videos. Where are you? Why are you running and hiding? And so, for at this time it had never entered into my heart that I had just said they were all wrong. In which I should join. And so here's 19, which all missionaries purposely don't mention. I was answered that I must join none of them, for they were all wrong. Immanuel said all their creeds were an abomination. Abomination of desolation, which we're about to get to. The great and abominable church. Them that come shall burn them. This is why the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not mention the second vision, that this is the bicentennial year, that in the learning of the Jews, this is the final year of the latter days. And thus, this is it. And so the Supreme Court going on a blitzkrieg, that's all part of it. They are setting it up to destroy you. They've already paid. The Judas payment has already been paid. They want the results that they paid for to restore their kingdom, not Zion, but they call it Zion. They draw near to their lips, near to Immanuel with their lips. They call him Jesus, but their hearts are far from him. They teach for doctrines the commandments of men. That is not philosophy. Aristotelian philosophy, that's not the philosophy of men. That is the pursuit of truth. That's what philosophy is the pursuit of truth. That's why Sophronia, wisdom, Philo, love, Sophie, wisdom, the pursuit of truth. But when you get Christians into the field of philosophy to destroy it with false interpretations, as they're doing with all fields of science, using psychology to do it, they're destroying science with the false interpretations, the false philosophies of men, because it doesn't come from God. True philosophy comes from God, inspiration, revelation. This book, having a form of godliness, they talk the talk, but there are no fruit. Or if there are fruit, it's all spoiled and rotten, so that you may know that it has no power. And so, yes, that's the first creed of Christianity that created Christianity. That created Jesus as the name of the Christ, who has the nature and character. None of the bishops could come to a unified decision. So Constantine created a brand new word that means not real. So that nature and character of Jesus is not real. Homusion. I have not heard back from that Christian. And as a result, Constantine turned the Bible of the Jews into literal history, thus hiding the prophecies of the latter days, the day and the hour, which produced a dumbass Christian who put in, "No man knows the day or the hour." The day and the hour is right there. Because solar eclipses, they make a crossroads, they make a path road on Earth, shadow. And so you know exactly when and exactly where on Earth it will occur. And they're giving that information to us in the Bible. And likewise, Joseph Smith Sr. knew this and had it put in the Book of Mormon for us and changed the Joseph Smith with the Joseph Smith translation so that we would know the day and the hour. And so, yeah, by having a vision, he claims that he had opposition and persecution. Not quite. It's because of the 9/11/1826 event, which you notice he doesn't talk about. But that's what he's talking about here. He's a disturber and annoyer of the plot to overthrow America and restore a monarchy. Lucifer's kingdom. Verse 20. That's where we're at. We're now in verse 21. So here's the Methodist preacher that I did the video of. Brigham Young is going around telling everybody it's another testament of Jesus Christ, the Book of Mormon. Now, the church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He is Lucifer of the inverted pentagram. And Joseph Smith knows the plot thanks to his father. And Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball know he knows. That's why they're purposely in the church, to sabotage it. That's why the Danites were committing crimes when they weren't out telling people lies about the Book of Mormon and the church. So that Joseph Smith gets in trouble, gets blamed, and gets removed from leadership while he's locked away. And who takes over? Well, Brigham Young would rise up and take over the presidency of the 12 and claim to be the leader. He had no authority to be the leader. And so, yeah, Brigham Young doesn't believe Joseph Smith's visions and revelations, calls them literal history, just like Constantine did. He's the great and abominable false Christ. Brigham Young. In the latter days there will be false Christs and false prophets. Brigham Young and every single successor of Brigham, which includes Nelson, who is the Antichrist, the son of perdition. As he made it blatantly obvious when he gets up and demands that LDS Church is a nickname. Lying to you, per se, that the Church of Jesus Christ is Joseph's church. That Joseph saw Jesus, not Immanuel, in vision. In Numbers chapter 12, verse 6, is the learning of the Jews of how the Christ will be known in visions and dreams. That's why Joseph Smith did visionary accounts, to let people know he's the Christ and he's preparing the way for the Christ of the latter days. And so Brigham Young has never, none of them have ever gotten any revelation or vision. Joseph Smith Sr. had a dream. He wrote it in his journal. It was not given to the church. It was Junior who made sure to publish it after he was dead. And so we have to remove that section from the Doctrine and Covenants. It doesn't belong there. Brigham Young talking about moving west in violation of Matthew 24. If a false Christ or false prophet tells you that the Christ is in the desert, don't go with him. Mormons went with him. It was his Danites in the first batch. But by converting Mormons in Europe and throughout the rest of the United States, saying that it was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when Brigham Young put out the call to come to the Salt Lake Valley, they thought that that's the church that they joined. And it was, because Brigham Young sabotaged Joseph. And so they're brought into bondage. And then his criminal operation of the Perpetual Immigration Fund to get those who weren't Danites, judges, to be tricked into coming. And the church got shut down because of the Perpetual Immigration Fund. Because with polygamy, the Perpetual Immigration Fund was turning polygamy into sex trafficking. And so the United States had had enough and shut it down. And so here's the 14-year-old boy, which, yeah, it does tie into one of the books used in the Book of Mormon that purports to be from a 14-year-old boy. I don't remember the name of the book, but there are plenty of ex-Mormons who know of it. I think even Jeremy Runnels brings it up in his letter to a CES director. And so here we have 18... No, he's still talking King Agrippa and Paul. Yeah. He says, all this did not destroy the reality of the vision. The people who want to murder him, who denounce him for this visionary account, are the ones who are plotting to overthrow America. That's what the vision is the exposure of the plot to destroy America. And just because they want him silenced and dead does not destroy the reality of their plot to overthrow America. That's what he's referring to here. And as we are in the last year, guess what? Everything that they have plotted to do has been done so far. So why would they stop now? Because I'm doing videos revealing the truth? My interpretation of Joseph Smith's visionary account does not destroy the reality of the plot to destroy you and America. By revealing the Book of Mormon that reveals the plot does not diminish the Book of Mormon as a visionary account, not literal history. This is why they want me silenced. This is why they want you dumb to call this literal history, to not know of the truth of the real history of the church, to believe that the Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus as literal history, not for what it actually is: Egyptian gold plates of the Knights Templar. Which caused Friday the 13th, by the way. Alright. And we get to the ending here. So yeah, I'll be able to shower and shave, maybe? We'll see. But at least bathe. I still need to have breakfast. And I need to change the DVD out for the next one. Which, yeah, it's sort of a chick flick. It's more of a kid flick. Disney friendly. And so here we go. Verse 27. I continued to pursue my common vocations in life until the 21st of September, 1823. Do you remember The 21st night, September. That's why I always use that as the theme song in the description below when I'm talking about this. As hoping you catch on. And that will be the for this video too. Okay. So as the spring of 1820 also is significant. It's about the year 2020, the Bicentennial year. That's the Exodus year. And yeah, you missed it. And so now comes destruction and survivors, who I just did the Book of Mormon video yesterday that finally answered my question that I had. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's hearkening. How are they going to go to the right Zion? The second Nephi, chapter 1, gave me my answers. Is that Mormons will see firsthand as we make our way to Zion. And hopefully no Laman and Lemuels. But there will be the temptation at first. And so they don't get to go. That'll be the difference. Because Laman and Lemuel, by going in the Book of Mormon, showed that the Nephites got destroyed. We cannot have Laman and Lemuels in Zion. That is the warning to us. If you're going to murmur and complain like the house of Israel did to Moses, what happened to them in the Exodus story? God did it. Moses didn't do it. But yeah, you are the enemy. You are seeking to harm us who want to have Zion. You are a threat to us. Why are you going if you don't want to be there? If you don't want to build Zion? If all your intention is to destroy it and harm us? You are the enemy. You are Danites. We don't want you. Enough of you. We no longer want to be under bondage to you. We do not accept and acknowledge your authority. And so 1820 is also in the Book of Mormon. Well, 2020 is. Because 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, king of Judah, put on by Babylon. 597. 4 CE. There was a sign in the heavens in 4 CE on April 8th. 20 years to the day and hour of 8 April 2024. The last day and hour of the latter days. Then starts the millennium, as prophesied. That weekend, on April 6th, everybody will have been assigned lots for their inheritance in Zion. Sunday the 7th, the big wedding supper feast of the Lamb at the Temple of Zion, which would be a tabernacle tent, just like in Moses, just like in the Book of Mormon. And then Monday, all fulfilled, time to start the millennium and build the mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem. But only if there's enough Mormons who will hearken to their Christ, whom Joseph Smith names and reveals other prophecies about him. And if you haven't caught on who it is, I even try to help you in the video, in the title page of the video. There is no deception. The pictures, maybe. And so, yeah, he's not talking about being arrested, because if he gives the real history of his life, he can't tell the visionary account. It would ruin it. He has to figure out another way to tell the visionary account if he's going to tell the truth. But if he tells the truth, he's going to reveal the real information that he found out. And thus, he'll be destroyed. He tells us this. And so he can't tell us the real truth of church history. He has to tell it this way to hide his identity as best as possible. But in 1838, they already know. But he reveals he already knows too. And yet Brigham Young, well, Brigham Young didn't. This was President Richards went to Europe, used this from the Times and Seasons in his pamphlet. And so he brought it back to the Salt Lake Valley, but Brigham never had it published. It wasn't until John Taylor that it became the Pearl of Great Price. And so John Taylor is the one who didn't realize that this exposes the church as the great and abominable church that's seeking to overthrow the government and return to Zion with all of the abominations of it, as the anti-Semites that they are. And so, now we're getting to 9/11 the second. And so this is what I'm wondering next, is that 9/11, 1826 was the first time. And this is why Joseph Smith is putting this in here, is because they're plotting also in the latter days to attack on 9/11 and not 2001. Not Chile. Not the Mountain Meadows Massacre. But yes, you can see they used that date over and over again. That is their date, the Illuminati date. And so, being this year, it's the 22nd. He puts the 21st because it's the evening of the 21st. In the learning of the Jews, 6 p.m. is the next day. It's technically the 22nd of September. And so 4 times Nephi, not Moroni, Joseph Smith Papers, remember, comes to Joseph Smith in vision. And then Joseph 4 years in a row, on the 22nd, Nephi comes to the hill Cumorah, which is the top of the hill Cumorah. Capstone. Christ. Joseph Smith is giving you code here. All of this is the learning of the Jews, Jewish Kabbalah, and Knights Templar. And yes, even if you look at the Jewish calendars back in those days, you see that he's also coordinating this with the Jewish calendar as well. But that's why he chose the specific years back then that he did. 23rd, 1823, Bicentennial year. He knew when they are going to attack. And he's telling us here. This is why the church is keeping it a secret this year. This is why I was worried about getting views to people who would hearken. Because this is it. We're not going to have a conference, at least what they're planning. And then the church will flee, the prophets will flee. Joseph Smith's parable in section 101, starting in verse 43, which is referred to in the Joseph Smith papers, 19 July 1840, which exposes Brigham as Judas, and thus why Brigham didn't publish it. And so, also talking about the threat to America. And so there's a duplication that's going on here. This is it. And so I'm not sure if it's the 22nd of September or if it's supposed to be September 11th this year. 9/11. Just because it's the second one now. And as far as the world knows, if there would be an attack on 9/11 this year, they would know it as the second attack because of 2001. But they would be incorrect. It technically would be the 4th, because Chile doesn't count, it's not in the United States. So the first one, 1826. The second one was Mountain Meadows Massacre. And then the third one was 2001. And the fourth one would be this one. That's interesting. We can check here to see if there was anything else, but it's not likely. I have to wait for Google to come up. Apparently now they've upgraded it to downgrade it so that when I'm running my camera, I've got the white screen of death on the hair. We have to wait and wait and wait. So we'll continue on. Oh. He's talking about being arrested, but not talking about being arrested because he can't. Because he doesn't get the Urim and Thummim until 1827. And yet he was arrested in 1826 with the Urim and Thummim. And so, yeah, it would ruin the whole thing if he came out and told the truth. And he would be murdered. And oh, wait a minute, he was murdered, wasn't he? Yeah. After doing this 1838 version, thus started the Mormon War, with election fraud, and Joseph getting locked up in Liberty Jail, and Brigham Young taking over as president of the 12, and thus over the church in Joseph's absence. Joseph wasn't supposed to get out of jail, but in 2014 he did. Dual patterns of prophecy, and thus began the latter days of the Tetrad, Perry Packer Scott. If only I could tell you everything and have it condensed into a time frame that you would listen. Okay, today in history, we want Wikipedia. September 11th. Alright, so pre-1600, Battle of a Forest, Isaac II, Battle, Lithuanian Civil War, Santiago, Chile. What? In 1541? Wow, that's interesting. Huh. Santiago, Chile is attacked by indigenous warriors led by Miquimalanco to free 8 indigenous chiefs held captive by the Spaniards. Wow. That's interesting and significantly coincidental. The Ottomans, Henry Hudson, siege, battle, Charles XII of Sweden stops the march to conquer Moscow. Battle, siege, Barcelona. The Battle of Benedict Arnold, expedition to Quebec from Cambridge, Massachusetts. British-American Peace Conference on Staten Island. Fails to stop nascent American Revolutionary War. American Revolutionary War. I hope I didn't call it Civil War if I said Revolutionary War, Joseph Smith Sr. I can make that mistake. It's an associative learning problem. Alexander Hamilton to Treasury. So yeah, the Revolutionary War had several battles on 9/11. The Battle of Brandywine, the Sugarloaf Massacre, and the Peace Conference. Annapolis. Hope Diamond. I saw the it was it House? Yeah, it was House. The Hope Diamond, they brought it up. They didn't mention 9/11 though. 1792. Maltese National Congress battalions. France annexes. Battle of Delphi, or Delhi. The Second Anglo Maratha War. War of 1812. British troops arrive in Mount Vernon and prepare to march and invade D.C. 9/11, 1813. War of 1812. Battle of Plattsburgh. Major victory in the war. And they do have William Morgan, an ex-Freemason. No, he was always a Freemason. Is arrested in Batavia, New York. No, Canandaigua. Oops. He made an error here. He was arrested in Canandaigua on his channel, which you click on and you'd find that out. He lived in Batavia. The Batavian press, who fronted him the money, was there, but he did it all in Canandaigua. That's interesting that they would make that blatant of an error to keep it away from Joseph Smith Sr. And would publish The Mysteries of Freemasonry? No. That's not the title of the book, where you learn about the Master Mason, by the way. 1829, an expedition. Anti-Masonic Party Convention in 1830. And so, yeah, Joseph Smith had to be careful because the Anti-Masonic Party has been formed and they're on a rampage. They attacked Andrew Jackson, who knew of the threat to America, and that's why he finally was succeeded in canceling the central bank, but then was brought back again, just like the War of 1812 started because Congress disbanded the central bank of Britain, and so thus started the War of 1812, where the Illuminati came in. But yeah, 9/11, preparing to invade D.C. Interesting. And so yeah, there's a lot of them. And so they could be thinking in terms of that as the first one, 1813, 9/11. And Joseph Smith, however, is using one of the others for the church. This is what started the church, was 1826 in Canandaigua, New York, with William Morgan getting arrested. And thus the two. One for America, the other for the church. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's an error in Wikipedia. And I can't make changes. Not only do I not know how, but I have been banned for some reason. I don't understand why. I was able to communicate with one of the guys who runs the Wikipedia site as the bigger corporation, umbrella corporation. And he said that he wanted me to get involved in making sure that Brigham Young is changed to be the first president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But he says that, the people are the ones who make the changes, and there is a forum thing where people have discussed the issue, but the church dominated and have made him the second president. The church has been making lots of changes to Wikipedia, altering the history and tampering with the documents. They are evil, people. Alright, so I did mention that there's Jewish calendar involvement here. Alright, so yeah, it does look like 9/11 and not the 22nd of September. So pre-order your Captain Picard DVDs in advance to make sure you get it before 9/11. just a heads up for anybody who might care. During the space and time which intervaled, left all kinds of temptations. Getting arrested for glass looking. Which, interestingly, it wasn't in September 1823. It was 1826. So he's purposely putting it back in time. He's pulling an anachronism in order to do this vision, which is exactly how the Bible is misinterpreted. It's very cleverly written here. Nobody gives him enough credit as I'm revealing it for you here. Alright, divine manifestation. And so again, vision. And he uses it in the terms of act of calling upon God. It's not actually how you pray. And so he discovers a light appearing in his room, wakes up his brothers. But again, it's Immanuel. The room was lighter than at noonday. The personage appeared at my bedside, standing in the air, defying the laws of physics, because it's not literal history. This is Immanuel. He is again coming to Joseph Smith. This is about him. The first vision denounced Jesus. So who's our Christ? Well, Immanuel is. So Immanuel is now coming back, and he's now going to tell us who our Christ is specifically. And so he's naked. Is born. And all painters, nope, it's not a sheer robe, as Joseph Smith says it is. They all cover up his nudity. And then call him Moroni. Because of section 27, which is the keys that Joseph Smith is getting here. We are not told this here, but Joseph Smith is getting the keys of Ezekiel 37. The Book of Mormon is not the keys. Book of Mormon is already written. Book of Mormon tells us, as tomorrow, I'm planning on doing the chapter 2 for 2nd Nephi today, so that 3 would be tomorrow. That talks about how the Book of Mormon is not the fulfillment. So that's going to be a very long video too, as it also talks about our Christ coming in the latter days. And that Joseph Smith is our Christ. And it refers to this second visionary account as the Book of Mormon. Second visionary account with Lehi's second vision. And so, again, calls me by name, as he's not calling him by name, but he did with the description. And says that he's Malachi, messenger, and his name was Nephi. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Nephi. The Bible and the learning of the Jews is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Kings. You know it as 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings. Samuel, name of God, as I should have told you about if I didn't. The name of Joseph Smith Sr.'s son. Samuel the Lamanite comes to the Nephites at their capital, tells them they're wicked, they're going to be destroyed if they don't hearken to him. Not literal history. And yes, Samuel the Lamanite is black, so too does the latter-day Christ have a black ancestor. She was a slave girl on the plantation in North Carolina and was raped to give birth to the Holy Grail of Mormons. There's the Knights Templar, the book, the Egyptian gold plates, which is the Book of Mormon, warning of the threat to America, and also of the hope if Mormons would hearken and not give me dumbass comments. No man knows the day or the hour. Fullness of the everlasting gospel, correctly interpreted. See, notice how he doesn't say the Bible? What is the gospel? Gospel means God tale, tale of the God. Who's the God? The Christ. It's the correct, full account of our Christ, just as he's telling us here. As delivered in the New Testament, as talking about the ancient inhabitants. And the Urim and Thummim, so that he can see the signs in the heavens. And I've gotten so well versed on the signs in the heavens that I don't need to use the Urim and Thummim anymore. Just like Joseph. But they are what constitute seers. The president of the church is the man like Moses, who is the Christ. Section 107, 91, and 92. Prophet, seer, revelator, translator. Brigham to Nelson don't have those gifts. The true Christs of Mormons have those gifts. Joseph had them. I have them. And I have demonstrated those gifts for you. But according to 2 Nephi chapter 1, it won't be until after the destruction when you will finally listen to me, if you survive. And so he quotes from Malachi. Will a man rob God? Yes, Nelson will rob God. But it also talks about the Christ who will come suddenly to his temple. Zion has to be built. It will be a tent. And then the 4th chapter, which he quotes from, which is the day that shall burn as an oven, and adds, for they that come shall burn them. It's this church. The prophets, they paid for it. With your tithing, which you thought would be insurance against the day that shall come burn as an oven. They betrayed you. They used the money you thought was going to protect you against this day to use against you on this day. I am not breaking this video up. You have to still be listening. Thus, you'll be left as fried eggs. If you saw that video, or at least the picture, that's why I put it in there. That was hilarious. Because eggs are the union of the sperm and if I have to explain it. And so he also adds to Malachi, if it were not so, the whole earth would be utterly wasted at his coming. There needs to be people who hearken. Mormons, even ex-Mormons and former Mormons, this is also for you. If you are living here in the valley, you too are in danger. Don't think that this has nothing to do with you, that you left the church already. You didn't go in the Exodus either. And so it's actually utterly destroyed. But Joseph Smith is using a tricky word thing here, because he then says Acts exactly as it is in our New Testament, which is destroyed. But the Greek, if you were to translate it correctly, is utterly destroyed. He then says he's told not to show the plates, or he's going to be destroyed. He's not allowed to tell about what really is going on with the Book of Mormon. There are no plates. He doesn't want Joseph to reveal the plot of the Illuminati. He will be destroyed by the Illuminati. He does not want Joseph to reveal their counter plan for the Christ, because he would be destroyed then too. Revelation 12 talks about the dragon wanting to murder the Christ. They want him murdered too. They've been trying. They've been failing. And they're successful, at least, at keeping him a secret from Mormons. So the 11th chapter of Isaiah is the two Christs, Joseph and me. Joseph is the roots. I am the upper part. Saying is about to be fulfilled. 3rd chapter of Acts, 22nd and 23rd verses. Read into 24. Everything from Samuel prophesies of me, and Joseph technically, but mostly me. They knew my name. And so yes, he says that prophet was Christ, not Jesus, learning of the Jews. David Gaunt. I've told you about that. I was working on the revision of the footnotes. Wow. We're almost at 2 hours. It should continue on. It should. I don't know if something got reprogrammed in there, as I find the volume sometimes gets lowered. But misquotes it, uses cutoff. That comes from Micah. Get that in before it shuts off, if it shuts off. It shouldn't shut off. And so that's why I did the series on Micah for you. Okay. We're still going. Good. All right. And so then he talks about the plates. He told us about the Jewish Christ from the Jewish scriptures, Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19. A man like Moses. You need to look for that pattern in all of scriptures, especially with Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. 2 Nephi chapter 3. Joseph Smith, or Doctrine and Covenants, section 103, verse 16. The one mighty and strong, that's Micah. We went over that with you. But that's him, the man like Moses. And gets the plates, show them, he should be destroyed. It's got to be kept a secret. Everything needs to be encoded so that the enemy doesn't know and would destroy the Book of Mormon, rather than use it as they did instead to turn it into literal history and another testament of Jesus Christ. And so that's why I'm wondering, because they don't want the Book of Mormon. They don't like it, but it's been the tool that has greatly improved their numbers, as they have all these Mormons who believe them and are clueless that the Book of Mormon is revealing their plot to destroy them. This year, they've paid for it already. When Nelson got up at his solemn assembly to announce the new temples and said a major city yet to be determined in Russia, he revealed he paid for the Ukrainian war. He paid for Russia, Cozy Bear, to cyber attack us. He paid for election fraud. They've paid with your tithing that was supposed to be used to protect you as an insurance policy. They betrayed you. And so, yeah, then we get to the others, and Jewish calendar needs to be consulted here, just so that you know. And so that's pretty much it. We're not going to go into the John the Baptist and the others, which, yes, also play a significant role with the latter days and Jewish calendars. I've done the videos with Signs in the Heavens, going over them with you, but good luck finding them. They were quite a while ago. And so, yep, conduit right up into heaven. Pillar of light. Oh, man. Okay. So, that's it. 2 hours, and obviously there's still more to go over with you. Like, not just the Jewish calendars, explaining Passover and tabernacles that are involved, and how they were fulfilled already with the Tetrad. The preparation for the latter days. So, alrighty. Now I can start my day. Travis might get so. Continuing on. As I was showering, about his little stunt of move to Palmyra, Ontario, now Wayne County in the state of New York. Senior was in the Ontario Lodge in Canandaigua, where William Morgan was. But knowing that it was in 1838, Wayne County also shows his prophetic nature in revealing to us not only who the name of the Christ is. Nobody's listening. He knew my name. That's my middle name, and it's the same name as my father's name. As tomorrow, we'll try to get to that. Trying to get to chapter 2 today. But he's also revealing harmony. And it's in a reverse way, because it was harmony as the name of the city. But there's a difference, because the harmony that he started out in with Martin Harris and Emma and Josiah Stoll was north of Pittsburgh. That's where the Methodists were. The harmony in Susquehanna River County, Pennsylvania, was not called harmony anymore. It was now called something else, and it changed the name twice when I checked on the website back when I did the research on it and did the video for you guys. And her father's name is Solomon Mack. Oh my God, he knew. There's more bombshells here, guys. And so he's trying to reveal in advance, before getting to harmony, where he puts in harmony, but then Susquehanna, and so on, is that after the theft of the 116 pages, they had to figure out a new plan to protect themselves in case the anti-Mason committee in Palmyra saw and read the 116 pages that Martin Harris handed over to them, and would be suspicious that this might have something to do with 9/11/1826. The 4 duplicated 9/11 4 times, 2 for the United States of America, 2 for the church. And so yeah, he's this whole thing is coded, guys, not literal history. And that's why it's important to pay attention to these details, as I'm now, my eyes of my understanding are wide open. And so Solomon, again, Knights Templar, the Temple of Solomon, who is the son of David. David Moses, 18th dynasty of Egypt. The double D's of the Star of David with a circle around it for the Christ, who is to restore the throne. Solomon is that personification, the King of Peace, and is contained in Jerusalem, Salem, Solemn. And so, and at the end, as a translator, it's a suffix determinative in Paleo-Hebrew for king, for places, kingdom. And so, Smith Sr. marries a daughter of Solomon Mack, and her name is Lucy, Lucifer, Venus, Lucifer, the great and abominable church. Born and raised in the great and abominable church, will be the descendant of Joseph Smith Sr. through Hiram Smith and through John the Dove, preparatory, John the Baptist, Solomon Fulmer, the one who Joseph Smith put his head on his shoulders and told him some sacred secrets that were only passed through his direct family line, who would marry into the Hyrum Smith family, who was the only Smith family to go to the Salt Lake Valley. That's why, to fulfill prophecy, she subjected herself to Heber C. Kimball and gave up her son to Heber C. Kimball, as he was the one who wrote the book that exposed that this church had plotted to overthrow the government, The Way to Perfection. That Lucifer was going to hand over the government of the United States of America to Jesus, and Mormons wouldn't know about it. Yeah, that one, that the church was furious with me. And that's why I'm here. And so, yes, he not only knows my name, he knows my ancestry for the Holy Grail. So, yeah, this is just incredibly packed with their ability of knowledge as seers and prophets, revelators and translators. And that's who you're supposed to be looking for, Mormons, because not a single bleep bleep of the Brigham Young's bleep bleeps have any. They have none